So, Barin, all of us keep hearing this word creator economy. We often go to all these award shows and we go to these conclaves where everybody is saying that, creator economy is the next big thing and is the next big currency, in fact. So, how relevant do you think this word economy is? Does it need to be part of this word creator economy?
See, I think it started quite some time back, but I think the way it has shaped up, it is nothing short of being an economy in itself. Uh, Brands are now forthcoming and ready to engage with these content creators, which kind of puts an additional seriousness layer over what was already happening. Content creators started out and they were creating their own content and monetizing it to a certain extent, I would say. But
Right.
with brands showing interest, I think it's kind of compounded over time, because and it truly is an economy in itself. Like I was reading somewhere, it's also called the passion economy, because here every creator gets the opportunity to express himself or herself in a form that he or she is familiar with, and that today becomes at an overall level becomes a very, very big opportunity for brands to look at partnering and spreading the message. So yes, I mean, more than one ways, it is an economy, and it's an ever fast growing one.
So, can we say that it is one of the most fast growing and evolving phase that we have seen in this digital era?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. I think what has again played a very, very important part in India is the fact that, access to high speed networks have become easier, cheaper. Mobile devices. I mean, we as a country kind of took a right turn into mobile devices as a device of choice. So I think with technology, with data speed, with mobile being my default uh, device of choice, I think it's kind of compounded year on year. And I think it's going to go even further in the coming years.
So, like we say, it's just started.
Yes, absolutely. It's just started. It's taking shape, if I may say so, because there are interest points that are coming up. I think subcultures that are evolving. So yes, it's a very interesting space for any content company to kind of watch, monitor, and then integrate into plans for themselves and the brands that they manage.
And yours is a content solution company. So, you
That's right.
would often be, your clients would be talking about it and your clients would want to be part of this economy. How often
Right.
do you come across, client briefs today which specifically want to talk about the creators and regional creators for that matter?
So I'll tell you, at least 2 out of 3 briefs are talking about how we can look at, engaging with content creators of different kinds.
Right.
Uh, and a very interesting point that you mentioned, which is regional,
Yeah.
and we actually invested in a company called Circus Elephants, and primarily because of the ability to talk local language, right? Because the way you mentioned Bharat, and it's very interesting that our credential presentation also has saying that India doesn't talk in English.
Right.
uh, because we are not a whole but a sum of parts. Every 500 kilometers, the language, the food, the people, the culture, everything changes in this country. uh, so I think what the most important point that a local content creator gets, and I'm giving you the brand's perspective to it, is the relatability. Most brands, if you look at the brands, they have a national face to the brand, right? But how do we contextualize that content to a particular region in India? The local content creators play a very, very important part in building that relatability. I can have, let's say, and not to take away from their stardom in any way, but we can have, let's say, a very large Bollywood celebrity endorsing the brand at a national level. But there may be, not maybe, but there are certain pockets of the country where, the identification with that celebrity is not very high, right?
I
So,
very, very well said. And I completely connect with you here, because we often see it on Moj Barin when people come to us, let's say from and they want to target a particular Telugu talking audience. They would
right,
often go to, for example, one of our creators called Prashu Baby, who actually enjoy a much higher followers than some of the biggest influencers on board. So I
absolutely.
understand. I mean, when you say, I think relatability is a magic word here, and today all the brands and agencies present on this chat, I mean, that is what they would want to associate with.
No,
Uh,
absolutely. See, I'll just give you a very small example, which probably cement the point a lot more. The moment you meet another person and you start talking in a mother tongue, it automatically builds that, that bond. I don't know
True.
if you have noticed it, in India, outside of India, if you meet someone, so I am a Bengali, the moment there is a conversation in Bangla that happens, you automatically, kind of
Connect.
uh, connect better. And
Yeah.
and I think that is the power of the local language in our country. While Hindi and HSM classically has been a belt that advertisers have looked at, but now we have the opportunity to look at multiple, pockets. Every region is different. Even within one state, the dialects are different. So I think it plays a very, very important part in building relatability.
I think you said a very important word here, and that is dialect, and that is again, one point I really want to emphasize on that, like I say, always, my favorite one is, my top languages are, of course, Hindi is there, but we also have Tamil, Telugu, Malayalam, and Kannada. And there is so much difference when we talk of these four South Indian languages that somebody who's, celebrating Pongal in, let's say, Kerala would be looking at that festival with a very different POV who's celebrating it in probably Chennai or Coimbatore or, Madurai or Bangalore
Correct.
for that matter, and that is where that regional affluence or that, that complete diction or that, that language affluence would come in. And that is how we, do it on Mod. So what we do is, even when we're talking to brands for that matter, Barin, we often hear this that, initially there were the days when they used to be worried only about creatives. Now they pay more focus on the languages rather than the creative.
Absolutely, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely. And
Uh,
it's never been this important.
yes, it is.
So,
Cool. So, while we were saying that, the regional influencer ecosystem, Anushka would play a small video for us. This we had made for a client Santur. And just look at the way vernacular played a
చర్మాన్ని అందంగా ఉంచడానికి నేను ఏం చేస్తుంటానా అని చెప్పి నా ఆడియన్స్ తరచూ ఆలోచిస్తూ ఉంటారు. కొంతమంది ఇది మేకప్ అంటారు, మరి కొందరు రైట్ డైట్ వల్ల అంటారు. మీకు నిజం చెప్పనా, నా కొత్త సంతూర్ సబ్బు ఇదిగో. నిజంగా అన్ని అభినందనలు దక్కాల్సింది నాకు కాదు, నా చర్మ సౌందర్యానికి కారణమైన సంతూర్ కి. కాబట్టి ఈ కొత్త సంవత్సరంలో మీ చర్మాన్ని కొత్త
So if you were to look at this video, which Anushka played for us very nicely, we can actually see that, the creator has actually lent an authenticity to the entire brand. Now, this brand already has very popular faces. It's a well-established brand in the market. But what is happening is when I'm seeing a young face who is probably living in the same region as me, who is speaking the same dialect as me, it just lends it more authenticity. And I think it reaffirms what you just said, that dialect and vernacular have become very important. So tell me, I mean, overall, how do you see these regional creators actually shaping up Bharat's digital consumption? I mean, do you see that, that they're here to stay? And do you see them growing probably over, like you said, there is stardom, but then there is a growing class of regional creators. So how do you see shaping them up over the next few coming years?
so the way I see it, Seema, it is actually about creating these subcultures. I mean, we have been talking about it way at a national level with multiple brands, that instead, the 18 to 24-year-old male and female, that was the classic way of looking at an audience demographically. Now
Right.
there are 17 subcultures sitting within that 18 to 24, and I think content, the way content creators work, it helps us understand the growing subcultures. Like today, if I were to tell you, of course, apart from the larger clusters, maybe of dance and singing and entertainment at large, there are very, very strong subcultures that are coming up, and content creators are driving that completely. Like, if 5 years back, if I were to tell you that I want to meet 18 to 24-year-old women who are, looking at with a very, very high interest in fashion designing, the appropriateness with which you could touch that audience would have been slightly different. Today, there are content creators who are giving you fashion tips, tricks, etc. And it's a fairly matured one, and they are driving conversations. See, what we also have to always understand is that every content creator, while they are creating a certain amount of content, there are people who are following them for that.
True.
Right?
Very
It's more democratizing the entire celebrity word, if I were to say, where as an individual, I have multiple interests. And, it is not possible for, one creator to kind of give me the solutions or, inputs on everything. So for dance, I follow someone. For maybe culinary things, I follow someone else. So I think it is shaping the consumption, the content consumption of the country. And I believe that going forward, it is going to get evolve into a little more matured space, because it's new and it's building and it's still evolving. I believe that it's kind of taking shape. So it is definitely, it has a very, very strong journey forward, if you ask me.
very right. I mean, and I think, Barin, I'm just taking from, where you said that not only are these creators regional and they know their vernacular and the diction very well, but they're also commanding certain niches. Like, for example, somebody might be extremely good in dancing while the other person is good in, let's say, humor. And that is a channel that they're actually using to reach their kind of audience.
Absolutely.
So, and I think, what youth really wants today and they click with is, probably following the person with the same passion point. And
Absolutely.
added to that, the advantage of a vernacular, I really think you have a jackpot there.
Nini, 200% with you, because again, the point probably we are kind of repeating itself, but that's the truth. I think relatability plays a very, very, even if I'm a dancer, I am probably representing styles which are, let's say a contemporary and all of that. But I also, being in a certain part of the country, I understand that culture better. And I understand that dance a lot better. So relatability, of course, plays a very, very important role in the overall mix.
Right. So, yeah, I mean, that's a very interesting question. I wanted to ask you this. What opportunity does Bharat or the young India audience? So there is an audience which is wanting to see those regional creators. But if I were to look at it from a pure play creators, point of view, what kind of monetization perspectives are we offering them? Because I clearly see, Bharat being there, I see young India audience being there, and they're consuming the content which these creators are making. But somewhere, is it leading to a monetization channel for these creators?
No, it has to. I think that's where I believe, two things will play a part. One is the authenticity and how true the creator is to that particular kind of content, because everything requires a certain following to be able to be monetizable, right? So I think it will depend on two factors. One is the authenticity of the content creator. And the second part that I believe is brands coming in. Automatically there creates an opportunity to monetize content. Because I think for the largest period, brands were looking at television, then they will move to digital more from a performance orientation. And now for the last 3 to 4 years, we are talking content everywhere, content and community, right? That's what is going to drive commerce at the end of the day. So I think I would want to make 2 points. One lens is, as long as the creator is authentic about the kind of content that he or she is putting out, and then there is a following, uh, there will be opportunities to monetize. The second part is brands coming in and looking at writing this for their reach, engagement, and building these conversations. That will also trigger monetization well for these content creators. So that's how I see it, for the young India.
So Barin, we have few creators today on the chat, and and brands too. Apart from authenticity, is there any other pointer or a message which you want to send across to the creator community, which can improve their chances of being more monetizable, viable?
I think authenticity would be my first advice, because unless you are authentic or you are genuine in what you do, it kind of comes out, right? So that,
Also knowing their audience.
yeah, also of course. So authenticity, I would say, is one of my points. The second point would be, I think, you need to kind of stay differentiated, from a content creation perspective, because there are, of course, so if I look at it from, if I imagine myself as a content creator, and let's say I'm good with humor, right? There are 150 other people who are also good in humor. So within that ecosystem, how do I stay differentiated? How is my humor different? That I think, and it's almost like a sub point of my first point, that as long as I'm authentic, Barin is funny because, and there is a different reason for it. I think it delivers on both pointers of staying differentiated as well as being authentic. And I think we are a country of 140 billion people with, with 77% mobile penetration.
True.
So I don't think following is going to be a challenge.
True. I think as long as you are delivering right,
Sorry,
you said
1.4 billion. Sorry.
As long as one is delivering authentic, unique, and fresh content, genuinely, I don't see a problem of the followers happening.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And yeah, that's how I see it.
Anushka, let's take it forward. So yeah, I mean, let's authenticity, freshness, content. We are talking so much about it. The potential for innovation is immense on across platforms. And if I were to talk of our platform, we do a lot. We can actually gamify the campaigns. We can do something as unique as interactive web cards. We do WhatsApp shares. We do instant pages, branded likes, and so on. Anushka, let's take it forward. Moj, in fact, if I were to talk about actually, and this was a portion wherein we were talking about, is Moj is that first short video platform to actually deliver Dolby Vision. And why I want to highlight this fact is, when often we talk about user generated content on any of the platform, we talk about the quality of the content which is coming up and the look and the feel of the channel. Not today. Moj is the single most platform which is enabling and empowering these creators or the users to create videos in absolute supreme quality with dazzling colors, sharp contrast, and greater details. So it is not only helping our creators, but it is also helping our advertisers to actually be seen in this beautiful ambience of the platform and deliver a more immersive experience. Let's go forward. That's the Dolby Vision video for you. Yes, this is, Barin, which is actually bringing us to conversations about the clients that you are handling. And, one reason I want to ask you this question is that there are a lot of startups and the brands today, on the chat who would want to connect with you and, actually understand the kind of work you are doing with various brands when it comes to a language first approach. So, if it would be great if you could, give us certain examples of a brand wherein you have been doing this kind of a approach. It could be the vernacular first or the regional creator approach, which you have done for them.
So I think, Seema, most of the brands that we are looking at, even if they are national brands, they are looking at a language first approach. So
Right.
while there could be, you know, there are different sets of communication that are tied to a single thread, because as a brand, I think there is a protocol or a code that, it has to follow. But I think the renders are completely language first. And like I was telling you, so let me give you an example of two very, very different brands. So we manage Mahindra Farming as a Service. So they have this business, which is, a vertical that runs in parallel with their farm equipment sector, where we are trying to connect with farmers, and like typically when you search on Google and you see the farmer, that's not the farmer that we are talking about. These guys are tech savvy farmers. They are probably the second generation, well educated, well informed, device equipped kind of farmers that we are talking about. So affluence, sorry?
A very evolved set of farmers we are talking.
Absolutely, absolutely. But where the familiarity is in that language, in the local language, right? They are not very, very conversant with English. In certain parts of India, they are not even, conversant with Hindi. While Bollywood has had an impact, but I think there are limitations still. So a language first is the only approach to connect for a brand like this, because if you are, and the brand is committed to help them better their per yield income, per acre yield and income, therefore. So the communication that we do, the kind of seeds, the kind of farming that happens across the country is broken into the year, right? There are different seasons for different crops. And add to that the different languages. So we've created a construct for them where, in a fun, engaging manner, we are creating content in Punjabi, in Bangla, in Tamil, in Telugu, in Malayali, and kind of reaching out to farmers in these regions. So that's one brand again, which is very, very different. And we were working with Imami. For them we have worked with Moj again to UP, Bihar, Jharkhand, and Bengal as the key markets. We had a language first approach where we worked with you guys on the studio ad format, kind of creating content in Bangla for the Bengali audience, right? So it's the same central thematic brand communication that now gets rendered. Efficacy and the kind of numbers that we have are very, very impressive. And, that's, I believe, this, I believe, is the only way forward. It's a strong statement, but I genuinely believe that language first communication is the way to go forward.
So, Barin, for example, if I'm a brand, if I were to approach you, would you also tell us how, dear, and works? I mean, do you have a specific, creators team who work with the brands, and then there is another team which actually works on other creatives?
No, so we have a team which is a central, the creative team that works on multiple brands in terms of the insights. But what we have created over the years is a very strong network with local partners.
Right.
So, if you believe that for your brand, let's say MP Chhattisgarh is a very, very strong market, or a Karnataka is a very strong market, then what we do is we take the central brand communication and work with these partners along with our creative team to start seeing them getting rendered with the nuances of the culture. So I mean, we have done a lot of films for Big Bazaar, for Mahindra, for Imami, where we have actually the central creative idea is done by us, but we have worked with local partners to be able to take that and build something which is extremely localized.
So safe to say that as a brand, as a national brand, if I'm approaching you, not only am I getting a national idea or a creative from you, but I'm also getting, I'm also reaching out to the hinterland, and I'm getting that
Absolutely.
regional, local flavor of, it could be the difference could be, as it could be like a Ranchi versus any other part of Bihar. So,
Yes.
okay,
Yeah,
great.
and your platform also, and otherwise now you can almost get into pin code level targeting. So I think what also helps is not only am I creating the content that is extremely local, but I also have enough and more media vehicles to sharply target and make that content reach the right set of guys and minimizes my spillover. So I think that is a far more efficient way of going about creating communication and deploying it.
So Barin, and as my last question, I just want to ask you something that, in our initial conversation, we were talking about, giving those tips of, let's say, authenticity or knowing your audience to the creators. But when it comes to brands and, especially, I mean, bigger brands, it is still easier, because they have those kind of resources. But when it comes to startups, and there are often startups who want to, probably spread out in the 500 kilometers of a particular region, or if they want to get into certain pockets. For example, I don't want to sell my product in Mumbai, but I want to sell it in Nasik and 500 kilometers of Nasik. So when they are approaching you, or they are, actually talking about setting up a campaign with regional creators. So would you want to give some tips to the brands which are approaching you or planning a campaign on their own as to how do they set about selecting those creators or setting a campaign?
No, I think selection, if I understand your question right, selection is a function of the communication. So what kind of content creators do I kind of select and make them a part of my campaign will of course be driven by my main creative, right? But like you said, if there are brands who are looking at, so we have a specialized language team, right? Who looks at brands only of this scale. And we have worked with Moj in certain cases, we have created the content and worked with Moj as a platform partner. We've done both, but the idea is that you have to, for such a strong, strongly defined market. I mean, if you want to talk to a Nasik and that area, that geography, I think Marathi is the language. I mean, I don't think it's a doubt in anybody's head today that, मैं वहाँ हिंदी बोल के भी निकल जाऊंगा. I don't think that's even a question today. So that's a good thing for us. But yeah, I mean, coming back to your question, I think depending on what the brand is, what is the product, and what are they trying to solve for the consumer, basis which we define our main communication, a central communication. I think adapting that to a local region, choosing the right set of influencers or content creators is a function of the creative idea.
Right. So, very essentially, we also work in a very similar manner on ShareChat and Moj. And this is what I want to share with all the audience today. It could be any brand, like I said, it could be a brand with a pan-India presence, or it could be a brand which wants to go hyper-local and only advertise into certain pockets. Depending on the kind of KPIs you have, we have a very strong creators team, which is part of our ecosystem, and when you come to us with a certain message or a com that you want to approach, or you want to establish your brand with, we actually, depending on your KPIs, we do the entire work with this creator community, like right from 0 to 100, and we deliver the end product to you. We are very extremely, on Moj, when we are drafting these kind of campaigns, we are extremely careful about what your end message is and what your
Right.
end goal is. And that is how, we are working day in, day out to create impactful vernacular content on Moj for you.